This poor guy set out with just $200, and he went from being a construction worker to a real estate tycoon worth over $1 billion in less than a year. He drove luxury cars, lived in lavish homes, and partied every night, living the extravagant life many only dream of. How did he achieve this? Today, we bring you a new movie, Rising High, and after watching his legendary journey, you might gain a new perspective on money and the real estate industry. This young man is named Victor, who from a young age understood the hardships of being poor. After his father lost his job, they faced scorn from others, and his mother abandoned them to marry a wealthy man. Young Victor vowed to make a name for himself and earn enough money to make his mother regret her decision. At 18, he decided to venture into the big city. Before he left, his father gave him $200, a decent suit, and a meaningful piece of advice: keep smiling, and you'll conquer the world. On his first day in the city, Victor faced setbacks. He found an apartment he liked, but the rent was a staggering $1,200. Confidently, he said he would rent it. However, the agent, judging by his appearance, disdainfully asked him for a work contract and proof of income, otherwise, they couldn't proceed. With no other option, Victor took a job on a construction site. After a grueling day, he was exhausted and earned a pitiful wage, with the foreman maliciously withholding half his pay. He couldn't even afford a $38 a night hostel. At night, lying on a park bench, he realized that working as a laborer would never make him rich. Reflecting on the past few days, a bold idea for making quick money suddenly popped into his mind. The next day, Victor put on that decent suit and instantly felt more confident. He went to an internet cafe, used Photoshop to alter his ID, forged a work contract and proof of income, then scheduled a viewing with a pretty agent. The agent quickly noticed that while Victor's suit looked decent, it was definitely not high-end. This time, he was looking at a luxury penthouse with a monthly rent of $3,400. The agent thought he was broke, but when Victor presented a fake income statement showing a salary of €20,000 a month, her attitude changed 180 degrees. However, where would the rent come from? Victor immediately returned to the construction site, gathered the laborers, and said, "You pay $38 a night for a hostel. I have a luxury apartment for just $15 a night, no proof of income needed." Many laborers were intrigued, and a dozen followed Victor to the apartment. Calculating it at $200 a day, that would yield $6,000 a month, leaving him over $2,000 after rent. Thus, Victor started his subletting business, quickly renting out 10 such apartments and earning his first bucket of gold. But this approach was bound to lead to trouble. Sure enough, one night, Victor received a complaint call. When he rushed to the apartment building, he was stunned to see tenants partying wildly on the balcony, mattresses tossed down. The scene inside was chaotic. Some were hosting sheep, others were fighting. It was like a slum. Just as Victor was about to intervene, the agent burst in with the police. Realizing the situation had escalated, Victor ran. During his escape, he met his future partner, Gary. Gary had connections and admired Victor's boldness and business acumen. They quickly found the fastest path to becoming billionaires, entering the real estate market, which was essentially making money with no initial investment. Victor and Gary went to court for their first property auction. With little money and fierce competition, they ended up with nothing. The second time, they bribed security to distract the other bidders, leaving only the two of them in the auction room. They easily acquired properties at starting prices far below market value. After securing a few apartments, the last auction was for a rundown building with 20 apartments, totaling €350,000, which exceeded their budget. Gary suggested they walk away, but Victor hesitated and slowly raised his hand. Afterwards, Gary was furious, questioning where Victor found so much money. Victor calmly replied, "The money's in the bank." With just 7 days left to pay for the property, they approached Nicole, a childhood friend of Gary who worked at the bank, hoping she could bypass the procedures for a loan. Nicole scoffed, asking what they had for collateral. Victor claimed to have 20 apartments worth €300,000 each, totaling €6 million. Hearing such a large amount piqued Nicole's interest. This deal could promote her career. They also contacted Gary's insurance friend, stealing a list of high-quality clients and emailed them to buy properties. With the loan and target clientele secured, they finally thought about checking the purchased properties. Upon entering, they found the place in shambles, resembling a slum. With no budget for renovations and clients set to view the property the next day, what could they do? Victor remained calm, instructed Gary to get paint from friends, and they frantically renovated one apartment, working all night to make it presentable. The next morning, before the three could wake up, dozens of clients were waiting at the apartment door. When they saw the beautifully renovated unit and Victor passionately presenting it, the buyers were very satisfied, signing contracts and securing housing loans through Nicole. However, none thought to check the other rooms. One buyer buyer, an elderly man, pulled out his life savings to buy a property for his granddaughter. Hesitating while signing, he asked, "This isn't a scam, is it?" Victor paused for half a second, then flashed his signature smile. In reality, the apartment he was selling wasn't worth 300,000 euros, and the buyers were risking bankruptcy. But once Victor pocketed 6 million euros, his guilt vanished, and he partied all night with Gary. Nicole got promoted to bank manager, and Victor became her VIP client, eventually turning into a couple. Having become a life winner, Victor still felt unsatisfied. With Nicole's help, he bought a real estate company and followed the same model, wealth pouring into Victor's account. In less than a year, he realized his dream of becoming a billionaire, moved into a mansion with Nicole, bought sports cars for himself and his father, and spent a fortune on a diamond necklace to give to his mother, who had abandoned them. However, rather than gratitude, she berated Victor, claiming she left not for money. Victor was furious. Much of his drive to make money was to win his mother's approval, yet he failed again, falling into a deep void. At this point, he only had one thought: to earn more money, tenfold or even 100-fold. To expand his client base, Victor acquired an insurance company, hiring many young people to gather client information. Behind this frenzy was a lack of emotional fulfillment. Having missed out on family warmth growing up, Victor decided to marry Nicole and have children, intending to drape the expensive necklace around his bride's neck. His good friend Gary warned him not to give the necklace to Nicole, cautioning him to be wary of a money-loving woman. But in love, Victor dismissed Gary's advice. The first year of marriage was the happiest time of Victor's life, yet unexpected changes came quicker than anticipated. One day, while Victor and Gary were playing games in the office, the financial director rushed in, saying the company was being audited by the tax authorities for over $1 million in unpaid taxes. By then, Victor had already squandered all his money. He returned home, asking his wife to retrieve the necklace for an emergency, but she couldn't. Frustrated, he remembered Gary's warning, and their trust shattered instantly. Victor then asked Gary for a loan, but Gary hesitated, advising him to settle the taxes and cut his losses. Victor remained determined, stating he needed the money not to pay taxes, but to develop new properties and continue growing the company for a qualitative leap. They began heavily advertising on television, expanding their real estate footprint across multiple cities, lavishly spending the money they brought in without any savings, confident they could earn even more. One day, after returning from a bar, Victor's wife discovered he was cheating. In anger, she took their child and left, filing for divorce. Without Nicole's assistance, Victor couldn't secure a penny from the bank. He tried to mortgage properties, but they were in Nicole's name. Without cash flow, his company faced a significant crisis. Yet he refused to give up. He became even more reckless, deciding to open his own bank and borrow money from the central bank. So, Victor brought various documents and a few retired bank employees to Malta. However, local officials said he lacked the qualifications to register a bank. Victor kept silent and slowly handed over a box. Seeing a box full of euros, the officials granted him the banking license. Victor, having evaded another crisis, didn't learn his lesson. After one wild party, a group of armed police stormed the mansion and arrested Victor. He was charged with bribery, money laundering, tax evasion, and fraud, sentenced to prison. His father called, saying he would come to see him, but Victor waited a long time without his father showing up. Then one day, his mother visited, bringing bad news. On the way to see Victor, his father died in a car accident. On the way back to his cell, Victor felt lost. Not only had he lost everything, but he had also lost his family. Perhaps this was his comeuppance. Years later, Victor was released from prison, and his ex-wife Nicole came to pick him up. She hadn't forgiven him, she just didn't want their daughter to grow up without a father. After his release, Victor lived in a small apartment. One day, he received a letter from Gary, which read, "I hope in the end you can be a lion, for you always have a heart strong like a lion." Victor pondered for a long time, suddenly recalling the lion head statue Gary had given him. That night, Victor snuck into the confiscated mansion, found the lion head, and smashed it open, discovering the expensive necklace he had once given his ex-wife. It turned out she hadn't kept the diamond necklace for herself. Gary had stolen it, leaving a way out for Victor. With the necklace in hand, Victor walked down the street with renewed vigor. Suddenly, he spotted the elderly man he had once deceived. Victor froze but, in the next moment, struck up a conversation with a woman passing by. It turned out she was also heading to a property auction, and Victor invited her to join him. Victor hadn't changed his ways. He was back in the real estate business. Those who fight monsters should be careful not to become one themselves. When you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you. If you enjoyed this movie commentary, please subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts. See you next time.